Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the Democrats on the Energy and Commerce Committee and I all want to work with our Republican colleagues to address the opioid crisis that has touched all of our communities. The best way to approach this crisis is through a multi-pronged strategy that includes public safety, public health, and science. H.R. 27, the HALT Fentanyl Act, attempts to solve the issue of emerging drug threats through incarceration only, as this bill doubles down on mandatory minimums for fentanyl-related substances. Last Congress, my Democratic colleagues and I shared our concerns about the partisan approach of the HALT Act. We called for a bipartisan solution, the Save Americans from Fentanyl Safety Act, or SAFE Act, which encompasses both a public safety and a public health approach. Despite the bipartisan solution presented by Representative Pappas, once again, we're retreading the same path that went nowhere in the Senate last Congress. Rescheduling fentanyl as a Schedule I substance will, in and of itself, not prevent one death. The HALT Fentanyl Act does nothing to provide law enforcement or public health agencies with additional resources to detect and to intercept illicit drugs at legal ports of entry, nor does it provide resources for prevention, treatment, or recovery efforts for those already experiencing substance use disorder. But the majority pushing through the HALT Fentanyl Act shows that they believe that the best way out of this crisis is through incarceration, which simply is not a viable or effective strategy. Additionally, the HALT Fentanyl Act's provision of a class-wide permanent scheduling action for FRS based only on chemical structure sets a dangerous precedent. All other class-wide scheduling orders require an evaluation of a substance's pharmacological effect. Moving forward with the HALT Fentanyl Act curbs this long-lasting precedent and puts us on an unsure path to the future. All of us do agree that FRS do pose a threat to public health, but the DEA has only encountered 37 existing FRSs, and we're still unsure about their pharmacological effects. By implementing this permanent scheduling without off-ramps for FRS, once we have established their effects, we will exacerbate the incarceration rates that we have with the punitive mandatory minimum provision and exacerbate existing inequities in the criminal justice system. But as Mr. McGovern said, that's not the only thing that the administration is exacerbating with their recent actions. Frankly, the Trump administration has withheld important funding to these critical programs that we need to stop fentanyl. The Trump administration's attempt to freeze federal funding last week for critical programs at HHS puts all of our communities at risk of losing the progress that we have made in addressing the opioid epidemic. The irresponsible and illegal attempt to withhold federal grant awards impacts all of our communities, including over $12 million in substance use grants through the CDC, NIH, and SAMHSA in the district of the chair of this committee in North Carolina. Our communities depend on these funds to support proven public health prevention and treatment for vulnerable populations. It's bewildering to me that there are people on this committee who are silently standing by while mental health programs wonder how they're going to pay their providers, hospitals are cutting services, and researchers' funding applications are stuck in limbo. In the OMB memo issued last Monday evening, which ordered the unconstitutional funding freeze, this administration targeted programs including certified community behavioral health clinics demonstration grants. Grants like these are critical as they support clinicians in their efforts to assist with prevention, treatment, and recovery of substance use disorder. Is this also the majority's plan to save America from the grips of the opioid epidemic, starve our communities from opioid treatment help, leave the most vulnerable without services, and those who are valiantly attempting to care for them in their lifetimes? Mr. Chairman, that is why I cannot support this underlying bill in its current form, and I will not sit by and abide our president unilaterally handicapping this body's constitutional rights. I ask the members of this committee to learn from the mistakes last Congress and to not push this partisan legislation through the floor, ignoring calls to work together on bipartisan legislation to address this crisis. return the legislation to the Energy and Commerce Committee, where we can roll up our sleeves and we can work on a bipartisan, comprehensive solution that will work for all of those suffering. And I thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yield back.